For a time, no one speaks, all too horrified by Pegasus' abduction of Solomon to make a sound. However, this cannot last forever, and as the most proactive among them, Seto takes it upon himself to make a plan. Turning to the packages sent to him and Yugi, he begins to examine them more closely, with Yugi joining in once the shock of what has just happened wears off. Together they identify the instruction cards detailing how they are meant to get to Duelist Kingdom for Pegasus' tournament. Figuring this must be what he meant about them dueling again, both Yugi and Seto reluctantly agree to play the psychotic businessman's games. Though when Mako voices his desire to help, the elder two Murdo brothers disagree, with Seto categorically forbidding it, while Yugi more moderately suggests that what Seto means is it'll be incredibly dangerous, and they don't want to put their little brother in harm's way. Petulantly, Mokuba insists that he doesn't care, since Solomon is his grandpa too, and he wants to rescue him just as much as his brothers, but the elder pair stand firm, unwilling to risk losing another family member to Pegasus. Seeing that this deadlock won't break anytime soon, Taya speaks up, saying that if Seto and Yugi want, she can keep an eye on Mokuba, earning her their thanks. In contrast, Mokuba looks deeply betrayed, though when his big brothers aren't looking, she shoots him a conspiratorial wink. After this, everyone slowly starts heading home as they have school in the morning, with even Yugi and Mokuba heading to bed after an ambulance has arrived to take Solomon's body to the hospital. Seto alone stays awake, staring vacantly at the TV screen. How could he let this happen? When they really needed him, he was helpless to protect both his brother and grandfather from Pegasus. But that's not the only person Yugi needs protection from. He had mentioned that strange spirit from the night he completed the puzzle taking over his body again. Seto still doesn't know what that entity wants with Yugi, but he certainly doesn't trust it, or the fact that it tends to show up whenever dark magic is around. Meanwhile, in his room, Yugi is experiencing a very similar crisis. Like Seto, he blames himself for Solomon's kidnapping, though in his eyes, the fault lies with his weakness. If only he were a better duelist, none of this would be happening, and Seto wouldn't be forced to walk straight into Pegasus' lair to fix his mistake. Seto's always going out of his way to save him, no matter the cost, but it's time for that to change. He's done letting people he loves pay the price for him. He's gonna rescue his grandpa, but more than that, he's gonna stop chasing Seto's back and prove himself to be his brother's equal. That way he can protect him for a change. As a result, neither brother gets a wink of sleep that night, though when they arrive at school the next morning, they find they are not the only ones in an altered state, as Joey has become sullen and subdued. Yugi mistakenly believes that he is still upset about last night, but Seto has other ideas, and so at the end of the day corners the blonde boy, demanding to know what's wrong. In his usual attempt at macho-ness, Joey shrugs this off, but with a joking growl to his voice. Seto tells Joey that he's not going to take no for an answer, so he can either tell him what's wrong and they can work through it together, or he can tell him what's wrong and they can work through it together after he's given him a beating worse than the day they became friends. Smiling in spite of himself, Joey laughingly protests that he gave as good as he got in that fight, before flopping to the ground as he begins to explain how he received word from his sister Serenity that she's gonna go blind unless she gets a really expensive operation that he can't afford. Without missing a beat, Seto offers Joey all the prize money he has left from his various tournament victories, but the blonde shakes his head, saying he appreciates his best friend's offer, but it'll take way more than Seto's got to save Serenity. He'd need the sort of money Pegasus is offering as the grand prize for his tournament to cover the operation. Looking Joey squarely in the eye, Seto tells him in that case he should enter the tournament and win it. After all, he did say he'd do anything for his little sister. Meeting Seto's eye, Joey says that's true, but he's not so sure he could cut it, since he's no Duel Monsters genius like him or Yug. Firmly, the brunette tells his friend that he's wrong. He's a talented duelist, at least on par with some of the guys he's faced in the big tournaments. Joey, however, still seems unconvinced, so fixing with an intense glare, Seto orders him to stop acting like a scared puppy dog and do his duty as a big brother. His tone and expression so fearsome that for a second, Joey actually does get a little scared. Though this is exactly what he needs, as he bounds to his feet, stating that yes, Seto's right. He can't be wimping out, no one Serenity's counting on him. Rising to his own feet, Seto claps his friend on the back, then without another word, the pair start heading back to the game shop to make a plan. It is therefore a team of 3 who make their way to the pier 1 week later, with Yugi, Joey, and Seto each in possession of the requisite starships to gain entry to the ship, though in Joey and Seto's cases, it is more like starships singular. Yugi had offered to give Joey one of his starships, reasoning that with Seto being a better duelist than him, he shouldn't handicap himself, but Seto had retorted that as a more experienced duelist, he would have an easier time winning himself a replacement. In a surprisingly bold move for the spiky-haired boy, Yugi had held firm on his desire not to inconvenience Seto, urging Joey to take one of his starships, while Seto had done likewise. Seeing that neither brother would budge an inch, Joey had suggested they duel for it, and as per usual, Seto had won, earning him the right to give Joey one of his starships. Lining up, the boys are all cleared to board the cruise ship, even if Kimo the security guard does find it questionable that two of them only have one star chip each. Once they're on board, the trio make for Seto's room, since as the Japanese champion, he is one of the select few passengers to have been afforded one. However, they don't stay here long, as after dropping their bags, Joey grins that he's gonna see if he can make some trades to soup up his deck, while Yugi and Seto decide to scope out the competition. Strolling among the other duelists, Yugi quickly bumps into Rex Raptor, who is being thrown out of a neighboring room by a blonde woman. Flushing with embarrassment, the Dino duelist tells the little squirt to mind his own business, but when he sees Seto right behind him, his tune changes dramatically, with him asking if Yugi knows the national champ. Grinning nonchalantly, Yugi replies that Seto's his brother, a fact which makes Rex blanch, as he thinks it's bad enough Seto Moto is here, but now he has a brother too? This just makes his goal to win the prize money 2 times harder. All the same, he eyes Yugi up and down and feels a bit of his confidence returning. This kid is pretty shrimpy, and he's never seen him at any of the playoffs, so maybe he's actually not that good of a duelist and was only invited because his bro's the champ. Yeah, that's it, which means he'll be easy pickings for his dinos when the tournament starts. Spotting the crafty grin forming on the regional runner-up's face, Seto puts an arm around Yugi's shoulder and leads him away from Rex and out onto the deck. Being among duelists, everyone knows who Seto is, and so give him a wide berth, with the brothers making their way to the railings overlooking the sea. Despite the awful situation they're in, it is a beautiful sight, a sentiment Mokuba echoes when Yugi expresses it to Seto. Wait, Mokuba? Whipping their heads round, Yugi and Seto spot Mokuba leaning against the deck railing as if nothing is out of place, while not far from him, Taya and Tristan are attempting to hide between some crates. Incredulously, Seto demands to know what's going on, reminding Taya that she promised to watch Mokuba, but with a sheepish smile, Taya replies that she is watching him, she just didn't say where. At this, Seto lets out an annoyed huff, as Tristan laughs that Taya really got him there. Playing peacemaker, Yugi sighs they can't change things now, so the others should head back to the room before the guards catch them without starships. Eager to get out of the cold, Tristan and Taya don't hesitate to take Yugi up on the offer, but Mokuba decides to stay, his eyes fixed squarely on the horizon. A little while later, they are joined by Joey, who is grinning ear to ear as he shows off the assortment of spells and traps he got. Recognizing Baby Dragon, Yugi offers Joey another monster to add to his deck, that being Time Wizard, and though Seto is loath to see his brother encourage Joey's luck-based dueling, the blonde gratefully accepts after learning how it can be used to create Thousand Dragon, though not without the risk of losing everything. From here, the rest of the trip goes smoothly, with the friends all camping out in Seto's stateroom. As they have been doing for the last week, Yugi, Joey, and Seto continue to have intense practice duels, going all out against each other, since they know that once they reach the island, they will need to be at their very best if they want to save the ones they love. A few hours later, the sun rises, and with it so do our heroes, looking out over the water towards the rapidly approaching Duelist Kingdom. After disembarking, they are all stewarded up to the courtyard of Pegasus' castle, where their platinum-haired host welcomes them all to his home and lays out the format of the tournament. The first round is a simple free-for-all, in which anyone may challenge anyone else, with those who earn 10 starships being granted entry into the castle for the finals. He also alludes to there being other rules, though with a cackle, he declines to mention what they are, as it will make things more entertaining if the duelists have to figure them out as they go. He then gives them 1 hour to prepare, before swanning back inside and bidding them all good luck. When the hour of preparation is over, Yugi, Joey, and Seto head off to find their first opponent. As it turns out, they don't have long to wait, with them soon coming across Weevil Underwood, who greets them cordially, asking if Seto would like to duel, since this tournament got in the way of them getting a chance to at Nationals. Figuring there's no sense in waiting, Seto accepts, with Weevil bidding him and his friends to follow him, since there's a duel box not far from here they can use. Having no reason to distrust Weevil, Seto joins him in the box, taking his seat on the other side of the table from him. With his keenly analytical mind, it does not take the young prodigy long to notice something is different about the playmat of this box. Of the 28 spaces, 23 of them are covered with holographic trees that look like the forest surrounding them, while his 5 monster spaces more closely resemble a wasteland. Seto doesn't know what this means, though being wary of Pegasus, he is wise enough to surmise that it does mean something. However, now is not the time to figure it out, as Weevil is once more called for his attention, saying that since Seto only has 1 star chip left, he will only wager 1 as well. That is unless the brunette has something else to ante which might induce him to bet the other chip. Reading between the lines, Seto nods that very well, he will wager his title, meaning that if Weevil wins, he will be officially recognized as the National Duel Monsters Champion of Japan. This makes the turquoise-haired youth cackle and stamp his feet with glee, since he had hoped Seto would offer him this shortcut to the top, but as promised, he lays his second star chip on the table, signaling for the duel to begin. Greedily, Weevil takes the first move, and without hesitation brings forth his big insect in attack mode. Seeing as how is only a 1200 attack point monster, Seto has an easy counter for this, calling forth his winged dragon Guardian of the Fortress and instructing it to destroy Big Insect with a fireball attack. At once, the blue dragon belches an orb of flame, and as it seemingly consumes its opponent, Joey cheers that Seto barbecued that bug. However, Weevil does not seem concerned, pushing his glasses up his nose and urging Seto to look more closely. Examining the field, Seto is shocked to see that his winged dragon is the one who's been destroyed, with his life points having been reduced to 1800. Aghast, Seto asks how that happened, as his monster was stronger than Weevil's, but with another cackle, the bug specialist reveals that the terrain of the battlefield denotes a field power bonus, and since his insect monster was played in a forest space, it receives a 30% power increase, making its true attack 1600, more than enough to obliterate Seto's dragon. Grimacing, Seto ends his turn, allowing Weevil to summon his killer needle, though it seems that like the Intercontinental Championships, direct attacks are forbidden, meaning Seto survives this turn. However, he will not survive another unless he draws something powerful now, and so reaching out, he implores the Heart of the Cards to give him a monster he can use to save himself, and his grandpa. At once, he feels his deck respond, though unlike when he drew Blue Eyes against Keith, this is not a warm feeling, but rather something cold and distant. Drawing, he sees that it's the Dark Magician, a monster Yugi has always loved, though right now, he is more concerned with its considerable power, playing it in attack mode and commanding it to destroy Killer Needle. Once more, there is the slightest of disconnects between Duelist and Monster, as the Dark Magician seems to hesitate a moment before carrying out its orders. Thankfully, this quickly passes, with the Dark Magic attack making short work of the bee and dropping Weevil's life points to 1100. With a gasp, the Insect Duelist calls this inconceivable, demanding to know how Seto could so heartlessly squash an innocent bug. Calmly, Seto replies that he needs to make it to Pegasus' castle, so he's afraid he can't hold back. Sorry. Gritting his teeth, Weevil snarls that the brunette will be, as he brings out one of his strongest monsters, his Insect Queen. He then has his queen feast on Big Insect, and once the ant is devoured, she lays an egg, then uses her queen's toxic breath attack to blow Dark Magician away. Thanks to the field power bonus and her special ability, Insect Queen's attack points have been raised to 3060, meaning when Dark Magician falls, so does Seto's life points, landing at 1240. Staring at the miniature monarch in horror, Seto reflects on how even Blue Eyes can't overcome Insect Queen now, leaving with the difficult question of how he's supposed to win this. Seeing Seto's worry, Yugi and the others cheer him on, and this gives the boy the shot of confidence he needs, even if it's only to lay a monster in defense mode. In response, Weevil simply summons his basic insect, though it does not stay long, as after the Insect Queen gorges herself upon it, she destroys Seto's face-down monster, rendering him defenseless once again. Now it is Seto's turn, and this time he draws a trap, but not just any trap, one that if played right might be enough to win him the duel. Laying it in his spell and trap zone, he brings out his mystical elf in attack mode, hoping that in his haste, Weevil will take the somewhat obvious bait. Luckily for Seto, Weevil is too blinded by hubris to see that he's being played, with the glasses-clad youth declaring his victory prematurely as he brings out a new bug, then sacrifices it so that Insect Queen can wipe out Mystical Elf and the remainder of Seto's life points. However, this is where Seto reveals his trap, Mirror Force, at which point a prismatic screen appears in front of the Mystical Elf, negating the attack, then firing it back at Insect Queen. With a shriek, the bug is then felled by her own bad breath, and as she keels over, half of her increased attack points are taken out of Weevil's life points, dropping them to 0 and ending the duel in Seto's favor. Despite Weevil's bad attitude, Seto still attempts to be gracious in victory, thanking Weevil for a challenging duel and extending a hand to shake. Unfortunately, Weevil refuses to accept this, snatching up his star chips and hollering that he will not be the first person eliminated from this tournament. The insect specialist then attempts to run off, though the moment he steps foot outside of the duel box, he is met by Tristan and Joey, both of whom adopt their most menacing expressions from their bullying days, as they ask where this little worm thinks he's going. Nervously, Weevil tries to make up an excuse, but the boys won't hear it, with Joey claiming Weevil's dueling gauntlet for himself and his star chips for Seto, while Tristan gives him the bum's rush, calling him a no-good cheat as he does. After this, the gang head a bit further south to a coastal region, where a bunch of duel boxes are positioned overlooking the sea. Eagerly, Joey declares that this is where he's going to find his first opponent, having been fired up by Seto's duel. However, the first person they come across is the blonde woman Yugi briefly saw on the boat, and it seems she has no interest in dueling Joey, telling him to buzz off, since she only has eyes for the champ's little brother. Grumbling, Joey stalks over to stand with his friends, while this unnamed challenger beckons Yugi to follow her into the box. When they are seated, she finally introduces herself, saying that her name is Mai Valentine, the psychic duelist, before laying her opening hand face down on the table, along with her 2 wagered star chips. Yugi meanwhile gets ready for his first Duelist Kingdom duel, reminding himself of his vow to stop chasing his brother's back, and drawing on the spirit of the puzzle to give him strength. A moment later, the transformed Yugi draws his opening hand and goes first, summoning Blackland Fire Dragon in attack mode. Now it is Mai's turn, and after hovering her hand over her face-down cards, she declares that she will summon Harpy Lady and equip it with Rose Whip, unerringly identifying both cards as she places them along with a pair of face-down spells or traps on the field. With the field power bonus and the equip spell combined, Harpy Lady has an attack of 1,990, more than enough to dispatch Blackland Fire Dragon and take a chunk out of Yugi's life points, which are reduced to 1,510. Yugi has no response to this, with Seto and Mokuba initially suspecting their brother is simply keeping up a poker face. But then Mokuba notices something in Yugi's eyes. Fear. Frantically, he points this out to Seto, who growls that Yugi must be thinking about his duel with Pegasus, since he said the duel monster's creator employed similar tricks to beat him there. Seto is absolutely right in this, as in his head, Yugi is paralyzed with fear, his terror overriding any sense of calm the spirit of the puzzle is trying to exude. What if Mai can see into his mind, and knows what cards he's gonna play? What if she already knows his strategies? How is he supposed to overcome an opponent like that? And if he can't, then how will he be able to face his friends and brothers again, knowing he lost his one chance to help save Grandpa? This rattled mindset caused Yugi to act in haste, bringing out King's Knight and having to attack Harpy Lady, trusting in the field power bonus to carry him through. Unfortunately, this fails to take into account Mai's face-down cards, with one being a trap called Mirror Wall. Mirror Wall's effect cuts King's Knight's attack in half, meaning that when Mai has Harpy Lady attack next turn, it easily destroys the warrior, and knocks Yugi down to 560 life points, while Mai still has a full 2,000. Weighing his options, Yugi decides to play defensively for now, trusting that his deck will come through from in the end, and so plays Meteor Dragon in defense mode, since its 2,000 points should be too much for Harpy Lady to overcome. Unfortunately, Mai has a counter for this too, only strengthening the theory that she can peer into his mind as she reveals her other face-down card, that being Shadow of Eyes. This forces Meteor Dragon into attack mode, though instead of attacking the dragon, Mai next plays her Elegant Egotist spell, turning Harpy Lady into the Harpy Lady sisters, each for whom brandishes a cruel-looking Rose Whip. Mai then tells Yugi that Elegant Egotist's secondary effect means she can't attack this turn, but it doesn't really matter, since now our Harpies have more than enough attack points to wipe out Yugi's dragon and his life points, so she'll just finish him off next turn. After all, thanks to a Shadow of Eyes' alluring scent, he can't play anything in defense mode, and even if he could summon a monster strong enough to threaten our Harpies, Mirror Wall would just cut its attack in half. Face it, hun, this duel's over. Though he hates to admit it, Yugi can't help but feel as though Mai is right. She's outplayed him at every turn, and now he's gonna lose it all. Eyes stinging, Yugi screws them up, though oddly enough, tears do not fall, and it is only when this one sense is cut off that the others enhance enough to reveal the cause. It is a powerful scent that is making his eyes burn, and while at first Yugi assumes that this must be the Schroeder tech, manifesting Shadow of Eyes' power, he quickly realizes that what he's smelling isn't one scent, but many different perfumes, all clashing as they waft over from Mai's side of the field. At once Yugi understands, and so locking eyes with the blonde, he accuses her of marking her cards with perfumes to create the impression of telepathy and throw him off his game. Scowling, Mai curses the dinky little duel box for keeping the smell in, though it doesn't matter now, since even if he knows her game, she's already won this duel, and when he gets booted off the island, her secret will be safe. Adopting a confident expression, Yugi points out that this is only true if he loses, and he still has one more turn to save himself. Scornfully, Mai tells him to take that turn then, not that it'll do him any good, and with a nod, Yugi does. With his faith in himself and his deck now restored, Yugi is able to tap into the heart of the cards, drawing Pot of Greed, which he plays. This allows him to draw 2 cards, Heavy Storm and Gift of the Martyr. Looking between these cards and the ones in his hand, our young hero thinks he might just be able to win. First off, he plays his Queen's Knight in attack mode, and as the miniature hologram of the warrior appears, Mai scoffs that it'll take more than his little girlfriend to defeat her Harpy Lady sisters, especially with her trap card in play. However, Yugi retorts that he isn't done, as next he activates Heavy Storm, removing Shadow of Eyes, Mirror Wall, and Rose Whip from the field. Now Mai is starting to get worried, as Queen's Knight has the power to take out one of her Harpies, but Yugi just smiles that he already told her. He isn't done yet. He then plays Monster Reborn, which allows him to return King's Knight to the field, and as per its effect, Jack's Knight emerges from Yugi's deck to complete the trio. Thanks to the field power bonus on Yugi's side of the field favoring warrior monsters, each of the knights is powerful enough to slay one of Mai's Harpies, but even if they all did so, she would still have life points left, a fact which bolsters the con artist's confidence until Yugi plays his last card, Gift of the Martyr. By sacrificing Meteor Dragon, Yugi is able to add an extra 1800 attack points to Jack's Knight, meaning that when the Knights clash with the Harpies, Mai loses all her life points in one fell swoop. Such a rapid turnabout leaves Mai dazed, though Yugi isn't done with her, as in a tone of cold fury, he states that she disgraces the title of duelist by using lies and trickery to exploit those who duel with honor. However, despite her best efforts, his faith in the heart of the cards won out, something he hopes she will in turn learn to believe in once he frees her mind of darkness. That same gold knife from his first appearance then glows on Yugi's forehead, and as he thrusts out an arm, Mai falls forward, her eyes vacant. This sight horrifies Seto, further cementing his distrust for the spirit of the Millennium Puzzle, and as the person bearing Yugi's face rises to collect his 2 new star chips, Seto calls out to him, stating that he knows he's not Yugi, and he also knows that if he tries anything funny, or anything that could cause harm to his brothers or his friends, he, Seto, will make the spirit pay. Looking the brunette in the eye, the Revenant solemnly vows that he has no ill intentions towards any of them, but after what he's just seen, it'll take a lot more than this to convince the protective big brother, a fact the spirit recognizes, giving Seto a nod, then relinquishing his control of the body so that Yugi can return. Worriedly, Seto asks if Yugi is okay, but with a concerned look on his face, Joey suggested his pal ought to be asking Mai that, since it looks like she fainted. Half-jokingly, Tristan suggests that Joey could always take the rest of her star chips while no one's looking, since even after losing a pair to Yugi, she still has several left. But pouncing on the bigger boy, Joey calls that dishonest, and besides, he's gonna win this whole tournament through pure skill. He doesn't need any handouts. At this point, Taya cuts in, a smirk on her face as she says this obviously doesn't apply to the star chips Seto gave him, with Joey hanging his head and crying that with friends like her, who needs enemies? Trying to cheer Joey up, Yugi suggests they go look for an opponent for him now, while the blonde boy admits that at this point, he'd settle for lunch. Luckily, they're able to find both, as by following the coast, they soon come across an unattended campfire with several fish cooking over it, and unable to help themselves, Joey and Tristan make a beeline for the food, while their more sensible friends urge them to stay back. However, before either boy can sink their teeth into the fish, a muscular young man with a harpoon in his hands emerges from the ocean and orders them to unhand his plunder. Gulping, Tristan asks if this is the man's food, to which the stranger replies that it most certainly is, and now these two are gonna pay for trying to steal from him. Brandishing the harpoon at Joey and Tristan, the muscular man advances on them until he spots something on Joey's wrist, a duel gauntlet. At once his demeanor shifts, with him dropping the weapon and telling them to forgive his hastiness. He did not realize they were fellow duelists. He then introduces himself as Mako Tsunami and tells the boys that they are free to dine with him, so long as they do something for him in return. Eagerly chowing down, Joey says that's fine, causing Mako to grin that he hoped he would say that, as the price of this meal is a duel with him. Bursting from the tree line, Yugi implores Joey not to go through with this, saying Mako ranked 3rd in the regionals and reminding him that with only 1 star chip, if he loses he can't get the prize money for Serenity's eye operation. Sighing, Joey says he knows that, but he already promised he'd duel Mako, so he's gotta do this. Otherwise, what kind of man would he be? And worse, what kind of example would he be setting for Serenity if he only made it to the top by going back on his word and running when things look tough? Joining his brother by the fire, Seto says that he agrees with Joey on this one, while Taya adds that there's no point arguing, so all they can do is believe in him. Adopting a smile, Yugi nods his support, then shooting Joey a thumbs up, tells him they're all behind him, so now it's up to him to win this duel for his sister. A little while later, after everyone has filled their belly on Mako's catches, he and Joey take their places in a seaside duel box. Being a gentleman, Mako gives Joey the first move, and eager to prove that he belongs here, the spunky blonde comes out swinging, summoning his Tiger Axe in attack mode. In response, Mako begins his first turn by summoning Fiend Kraken, though here something odd happens. While a hologram of Tiger Axe appeared atop its card when Joey summoned the monster, nothing appears for Mako, with Joey curiously asking if the box is faulty or something. Smirking, Mako assures his opponent that everything is working exactly as it should, before pointing out the field which Joey only now realizes is half wasteland, half ocean. The ocean duelist then explains that in the ocean, his aquatic monsters can lurk beneath the surface until it's time to attack, which it presently is. At once, a pair of tentacles shoot out of the water, wrapping around Tiger Axe and dragging it into the murky depths. Vainly, Joey tells his monster to chop its way to freedom, but it's already too late, as with a gurgling yowl, Tiger Axe meets a watery end, as Joey's life points are reduced to 1,740. Undeterred, Joey next brings out Garuzzi's, with a grin that his big bad lizard's got enough attack points to cut Fiend Kraken into calamari. Still calm, Mako acknowledges that while this is true, there's one problem with Joey's plan, and that's the fact that unless Garuzzi's is really good at holding its breath, it won't get near enough to his monster to do any damage. To prove his point, he encourages Joey to attack, and though the Moto brothers all warn him it's a trap, Joey's gut wins out over his head, with him having Garuzzi's use Battle Blades strike. Roaring fiercely, the Lizard Knight runs to the water's edge and swings its axe with gusto, though this does little more than briefly part the surface of the water before returning to normal. Smirking a little, Mako then asks if Joey sees what he means. His monsters can't touch the great denizens of the deep, so he's afraid Joey's all washed up. Now it is Mako's turn again, and with it he summons his Great White Terror, a fearsome shark who promptly sticks its head out of the water just far enough to clamp its powerful jaws around Garuzi's, and thanks to the field power bonus, makes chum out of the reptile, while Joey's life points take another hit, now being 1,590. Unfortunately, Joey's life points aren't the only things to have suffered damage, as when Great White Terror retreats back into the ocean, Joey hangs his head, muttering that maybe it really is hopeless. However, before he can say any more on the matter, a new voice speaks up, that being Seto's, as he barks at his best friend that he better not be thinking of quitting or anything stupid like that. Sure, he messed up, but the duel's still going, so now he's got to pull himself together and use this setback as a reminder to duel with his head like he taught him. Meeting his eyes, Joey nods that yeah, his pal's right. He ain't about to throw in the towel, and more than that, he's just come up with an awesome new strategy. He then summons Baby Dragon in attack mode, though instead of just leaving it there, he instructs the fledgling to take flight, grinning that Mako's not the only one who can make use of the terrain. Nodding, Mako calls this a clever move, though warns that such a young dragon will need to get close to the ground in order to attack his aquatic beasts, and when it does, it's fish food. Getting his confidence back a little, Joey replies that while this is true, for now his dragon and his life points are safe, a claim Mako disputes, as with it being his turn again, he's able to summon a monster, Flying Fish. At once, a nasty-looking winged fish appears, zipping atop the waves, while with a proud smile, Mako states that this should be able to reel in his baby dragon without issue. However, here Joey points out a problem, that even with the field power bonus, Flying Fish still has fewer attack points than Baby Dragon, so if they fought, that guppy would get deep-fried. Nodding, Mako agrees that this would be true, if not for his equip spell, Sharkify. Suddenly, Flying Fish begins to mutate, growing larger, with its face becoming more pointed, while a wicked-looking fin sprouts out of its back. Then when the transformation is complete, Mako orders his flying shark to make a meal out of Baby Dragon. From the sideline, Taya gasps that she can't watch, but to the surprise of everyone, when Flying Shark goes in for the kill, Baby Dragon deftly dodges, then even more shockingly, it fires back with a torrent of its flame breath, incinerating the shark and costing Mako 100 life points. Looking stunned, the Ocean Duelist demands to know how this is possible, positing for the first time that maybe the duel box is defective, but with a satisfied smirk, Seto answers that it's not a glitch, Mako just made a mistake. By having Flying Shark get so far out of the water, it lost its field power bonus, and this left it vulnerable to Joey's dragon. Looking annoyed, Mako huffs that even if he lost one fish, the rest of his creatures are still safe thanks to the ocean battlefield. But with a cocky grin, Joey tells his opponent not to be so sure of that, as he summons his next monster, Flame Swordsman. However, he isn't done yet, as with a laugh, he says that he's going to take a leaf from Mako's book and use an equip spell called Salamandra. At once, the flames of the swordsman's blade coalesce into a fiery dragon, and on Joey's command, the Flame Swordsman has this draconic fire target fiend Kraken. Due to being a magical flame, it is not extinguished as it travels underwater, instead causing the water around it to boil as it wraps around the giant squid and destroys it. Seeing the surface of the water begin to bubble, Joey strikes upon another idea, and so has Baby Dragon fly lower so it can add the power of its flame breath to the assault. Together, these two fire attacks are enough to quickly turn Mako's precious ocean into a pot of boiling water, and as a creature that can only exist in the sea, Great White Terror soon finds itself floating belly up as the main ingredient in Joey's comeback soup. Thanks to the field power bonus, the damage Mako receives from this attack is just enough to wipe out his remaining life points, meaning that in a shocking turn of events, Joey has beaten the regional bronze medalist. Rising to his feet, Mako shakes Joey's hand, congratulating him on a well-fought duel, while handing over the star chip he wagered. Due to having 2 star chips left, this is not the end for the Ocean Duelist, with him promising to meet up with the group again at Pegasus' castle, a deal everyone is happy to accept, with them all parting as friends. As they go, Joey beams that he's the greatest, a bubble Seto is happy to burst, playfully stating that his friend got lucky, that's all. Angrily, Joey retorts that it was all strategy just like Seto and Yugi taught him, though with a laugh of his own, Mokuba suggests that maybe Joey should actually be the one giving the dueling advice. After all, he finished his duel with more life points than either of the brothers. Yugi and Seto are both stunned by this claim, though they suppose Mokuba is right. However, this moment of surprise comes at a cost, as with a delighted cheer, Joey capitalizes on Seto's bewilderment to get him in a headlock and administer a noogie as he declares that the brunette better watch out, since maybe he'll come for his title next. Huffing, Seto tells his excitable friend to dream on, since if they dueled seriously, he'd crush him in 2 turns flat. However, before Joey can deliver a response, a figure in a suit steps out of the trees and requests their attention. Immediately, everyone recognizes him as Kimo, the security guard from the boat, out, and in a tone that will brook no argument, he instructs them to follow him, as Master Pegasus has arranged a special duel for Seto. Laying a hand on his brother's arm, Yugi implores Seto not to trust the man, but in a reassuring tone, the brunette replies that he won't, though he does want to see what sort of game Pegasus has cooked up for him. Cackling, Kimo smirks that it's one the young man won't ever forget, as he leads the group to a duel box seemingly in the middle of nowhere. Someone is already seated inside, and figuring this must be his opponent, Seto enters as well, though when he sees who is supposed to be dueling, he freezes. It's his grandpa. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.